Talk to me about it. I'm hella tired. I didn't think I was gonna be this tired, but I'm pretty tired. I think I could. I'll manage.
So this time I will introduce both of us, because I remember last time I was like, hey, welcome to the show, blah, 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 and they're like, wait, who's who? And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. But I'm going to, should I do my radio voice? Should I be like, hello?
Do the voice that you find more comfortable.
Hello, Roger. How are you? That's great.
Voice.
Fantastic.
You sound like an enthusiastic villain.
Hello, Roger.
I can see you twirling.
Yeah.
That's your Waluigi voice. That's what Waluigi should sound like, a villain. From, like, an 80s show.
Yeah. Hello, Roger. We meet at last. I did want to ask him if he, like, looked to the past Sonic voices for... Because he's always nasally, like...
That's actually one of the questions I was going to add to the thing.
I'll definitely ask that. Oh, I think he's... might be here. I see a new hangout, says George Roger. Is he chatting with you?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, let me add him again. Oh, maybe he was invited, but he hasn't...
Accepted?
Yeah. There we go. I just posted another invitation. Oh, here he is. Hello.
Oh, I'm so late.
That's all right. Hey, how's it going, Roger?
Hey, is this Barry?
Yeah, this is Barry, and with me is George.
Hey, George. Sorry, guys. I apologize for being 10 minutes late there. That's very unprofessional.
It's all right. We're very unprofessional as well, if not more so.
Excellent.
It's all right.
Excellent.
So how are you doing today? I guess kick things off. This is the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show. We are a general Sega news site. And, we also like all other video games as well. How's it going, Roger?
Going very well. I have no problems in life, man. It's just really, I get to hang out and talk to you guys. Life is every day be this good.
Nice. I get that vibe from a lot of voice actors. They're very chilled out individuals.
For the most part, I mean, like, look at what we do. It's a little ridiculous at times. It feels kind of silly.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can kind of grab their job to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, I'm not out, digging ditches and I don't have people's lives in my hands. So yeah, the reality is no, it's a pretty chill, fun job. I mean, the acquisition of the work is the work. The work itself is a ton of fun.
Oh, nice. And that actually ties in with our first question. We wanted to know how you got your start in the voice acting industry.
I actually got my start by doing voices and characters in an act while I was doing some stand-up comedy, sort of before, during, and after college. And by doing those voices and characters in the act, I had some people ask me, who represents you for voiceover throughout the course of that little short-lived comedic career of about 5 years. And so that was essentially what what kind of sort of introduced me to that as a viable option of something to do, and went out and took some classes. And up in the LA area, I was based in Orange County, California, for a very long time. Just moved up to LA about 1.5 years ago, and so yeah, I mean, it was just having people ask, like, who represents you for voiceover, and hearing that and saying, hey, you should look into it, and eventually just looked into it, took some classes, and pounded the pavement in my local area and tried to drum up work, and then just start trying to build better gigs and more connections.
Oh, wow. Was there a certain actor or voice actor who was an early influence on you?
I don't know. I don't think so. Other than maybe John DiMaggio, like, with not even realizing that I didn't necessarily know who he was, but I remember thinking that the character of Bender was one of the funniest characters I've ever heard. I kept thinking, like, what a boisterous, like, crazy, arrogant goofball character, and I guess all of those things. I mean, anything that you go back and think about, like cartoons and video games that you've played in the past, those things, of course, sort of, I guess, influence me. But I don't think I went into it going, I want to emulate, Mel Blanc, or right. I want to be just like Don LaFontaine, or that kind of thing, because it was me also recognizing that I can't do those things. I can't be those guys. So it was more just kind of like, I liked that about voiceover work, which is you'd get into a studio, you'd get into a room, and you'd be collaborating with far more talented people than I. You know, when it comes to a writer, a director, a creative developer, people that want to influence that character, they start telling you what they want, and you get to try to see if you can make that vision happen for them. So it was fun to kind of just approach things from a brand new perspective, as opposed to, you know, boy, I sure hope I sound like Mel Blanc, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, looking over your resume, you definitely have a certain type that you play, even though the characters are very different. It seems like you play a lot of heroes, a lot of leading men. And one of the big ones, well, Sonic and Batman are the real big ones this year. With specifically Batman Arkham Origins, you join a long list of actors who have portrayed the character. Can you tell us a little bit of the audition process, and if you looked to any specific past Bat actors, that's hard to say, for vocal inspiration?
You know, I mean, I would say that obviously playing something as iconic as that, you're going to have not a like an idea of what you're going to do when you go in, but because even then we were really trying to kind of approach this since it was an origin story, we were trying to approach it from a little bit more of a fresh perspective than what had been done previously, and very aware of what Kevin Conroy had done, because you know, I had played those games and grown up and watched the animated series as a kid, knowing that was the Kevin, you know, not knowing that was Kevin Conroy, but knowing that that's the Batman that I've heard. But when we got in, we didn't necessarily try to do an impression. I can't do an impression of what Kevin does, but we were trying to stay true to that version of the character that he's established, and then try to back off a few years and see if we couldn't find a way of saying, yeah, we could see how this is a more unhinged, less defined, less refined version of Batman, and go from there. And I think it's that way with, you know, obviously with Batman, with Kevin Conroy having such a long established version of the character. Troy put it best in an interview when he was talking about taking over for Mark Hamill for this role in this particular game. That point on the horizon where we knew we wanted these performances to kind of match that, or to have fans understand that, okay, I could see where the Arkham Origins Batman could become the Arkham City Batman, or that kind of thing. So it was, you know, that's something that we were mindful of, but with a character that's so iconic, you have so many different versions of so many different actors, that even other voice actors that have portrayed the character. So we tried to kind of create something as best we could with all of those things. We even being mindful of the Christian Bale version, you know, that we were trying to create something where it's like, yeah, this is Batman. And I think every single actor along the way, that's what they're doing. You know, the Batman, I've always said, kind of lives in like a sort of a small box of parameters that you can understand. Like, if you start stepping too far beyond that box, then it doesn't sound like Batman, or it's not a character that's familiar to us. And you know, that's what we were trying to emulate with Arkham Origins, for sure. It's just staying true to the character is the most fundamentally important element.
And George, you had a question pertaining to that, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you played, like Barry said, a lot of iconic heroes. How long? I mean, what kind of, do you like step into the mindset of the character before recording, or how do you do that before you record?
It all depends. I mean, typically, no. I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing when it comes to voiceover. I've always likened it to like a game of football, where it's like, and not soccer, but actual American football. With all the World Cup stuff going on, you got to be very careful these days. But you kind of go to a line of scrimmage with, or I should say, you go to a huddle with a group of people, and you collaboratively kind of decide what is it that we want to execute with this particular play, and that's just line by line. Like, as you start recording a game, it's like, what are we all going to do? How do we want to see this play go? You go to the line of the scrimmage, you call hike, you throw that goal read against the wall and hope that it sticks, and then once it's done, you all go back and kind of connect back at the huddle to say, how do we think that went? So to try and stay, I think, in a particular character, or work myself up into something that's not necessarily what I do to approach things. I will usually listen to some reference lines before going into a gig, to see where we were at previously to make sure that my register, the vocal register, is staying consistent. And I might have certain lines that I'll say that help me conjure up the. I guess if I am doing anything, it's in my mind where I'm trying to be sort of envision what this final product might look like. So I might try to listen, to some of the previous work, and then say a couple key lines that help me kind of lock into, the character. Like with Chris Redfield, it was, for whatever reason, it was always Wesker, because he had a very, pronounced way of doing that. With Batman, I don't necessarily recall, other than maybe something along the lines of saying Alfred, because he's always talking to Alfred. And with Sonic, it could be any number of lines, like Burnbot, different things you'll do to kind of help you get into the role. And then obviously Ezio, you've got Requiescat and Pace, and with Captain America, you've got Impossible is what do we do? There's different things you'll try to say that are catchphrases that kind of help you get to that mindset of the character, but I don't necessarily lock into a character and stay there for 4 hours. And it's I think the process of voiceover recording wouldn't really facilitate that very easily.
My other question was game recording and other mediums like television. What's the difference between those processes?
Not much when it comes to voiceover. It just depends on the project. But I mean, I guess with games you have to cover so much more. They tend to be a little bit more vocally intensive. And there's a lot more work with games to a degree because you have to cover every single unknown variable within the story that that the player might be controlling. Whereas with and I mean everything from if the character keeps just walking into a wall, do you want him to have one grunt to where every single time if the player wants the character to just keep jumping off and hitting this wall, do you want it to constantly go or do you want some variation or towards ow, hey, knock it off? You cover all those things in video games, whereas with animation and television, usually you've got a writer and a creator that have storyboarded out, and they've got a very definitive idea of what they want to accomplish within these scenes. So you tend to just record what you record, and then they go and they animate to that. So it's roughly still all the same type of voice acting, just sometimes a little more aggressive on the video game side because we also have all the battle damage and you're falling from a 50-foot cliff, now a 150-foot cliff, now a 500-foot cliff, and all those types of things.
How many grunts?
Oh, go on.
I was gonna ask, how many grunts do you do for a game usually? The same.
Oh, I would have no clue of knowing. It could be hundreds. When you figure sometimes we'll do a run, they'll say they'll usually parcel it out into what type of damage is happening to the character. So is it small damage, medium damage, large damage, and then life-ending damage? Is it and then it's what damage are you inflicting, and is it small damage that you're inflicting? Are you inflicting big? Are you punching huge or are you punching small? And so from there, they usually ask you to give them a variation of 5 or 6 different options. So it'll be so we're rolling here. This is small damage, and you'll give them different versions of that, and then they'll say now medium damage, and you're going to go and you vary all that stuff up. So by the time you're done with a game, you've probably grunted and efforted well into the hundreds of times.
My, I've actually gone through the Sonic Generations sound files, and I just played through every single clip, and it's you going, no.
That sounds about right. And you can imagine what it feels like as an adult to be doing that stuff in a booth. You just start going, how is this my job?
More noise, more grunts.
Exactly.
I have a question for the DLC.
Go for it.
Batman Arkham Origins, the DLC dialogue, did you guys record that when you recorded the main game, or did they make you come in again for the DLC recording?
No, actually, with that one, sometimes they do have DLC already in mind during the principal recording of a major game. With this one, they I think they alluded to a DLC, but we came in after the fact, so we had already wrapped up all the recording for Arkham Origins, and then came in after that to record the dialogue for Cold Cold Hard.
Barry, you had a
Yeah,
question?
I was gonna actually move into some Sonic Boom questions. I know you can't get too specific on the show, but at least with the voice
Everybody
acting.
dies. Everybody dies.
Yeah. Well, no.
Oh no, I just spoiled it.
Oh man. Well, thanks for coming up. No.
Sorry. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye. No. With Sonic Boom, it's been described as a new branch of the franchise, making the Sonic and Sonic Boom not the same one seen in generations. Were you approaching your work as Sonic in Sonic Boom differently than in the past, or was it really just the same character in your mind, just different universe?
I think it's the same character, different universe. I mean, Sonic is ever confident in everything that he does, and so it doesn't vary too much from that. But I think we're playing around and having a little bit more fun with the universe that Boom lives in comparison to others. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a vastly different Sonic. He might be a little bit more relaxed at times in this, and maybe a little bit more casual, because we're doing this buddy system type of approach, especially with regard to the games. But no, I mean that's the fun part about this. I think a lot of people were fearing that there was going to be some complete departure or some complete radical revisualization, but you can't do that with such an established character. So we were just wanting to have a little bit more fun with it, and push the action and the comedy and the adventure element to this stuff. And so that's, I think he's still kind of the same Sonic, but maybe a little bit more contemporary version of it. But that's also kind of a dangerous word to use, because I don't want it to make it sound like the other versions were sleepy or old, because they weren't. It's still the same character. It's still the same Sonic. We're just kind of having a little bit more fun with that universe in which he lives. And that's where I think that's why I'm so excited about Sonic Boom, just because it's been such a kind of a different thing to do with a character that's so well established. So it's been a blast being a part of it. We're having way too much fun being a part of these projects. It's been phenomenal.
And you share the same room with the whole cast, correct?
Typically, yes. I mean, with regard to the television series, for sure. With video games, they tend to isolate your recording, so we recorded separately. At least as far as I know, I know that most of my sessions were separate. I should say, if not all. So, that depends on how they want to manufacture a video game. That's pretty typical. Like Batman was no different. Assassin's Creed was no different. Every now and then you'll do a group scene, or you'll do like a partner read. But for the most part, it can become a nightmare for editors to try to get that stuff together if people are overlapping lines and that kind of thing. So with the TV series, though, we like most TV animated work, we were able to record as like an ensemble cast and kind of feed off of one another's energy and off of one another's timing, and it was a blast. It's also one of the reasons why we were having way too much fun in those recording sessions.
So would you say then, now that you spend so much time as the character, especially with the TV show, and should it get picked up for additional seasons, even more time as the character?
Knock on wood.
What was that?
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
Right.
What you just said,
definitely. And with shows like that, they sometimes announce a second season before the first one even hits. So fingers crossed.
It depends. Yeah, no kidding.
Would you say your work on Boom has changed how you perceive the character, or how you would voice him in like future games even?
No, I think, you know what? Well, possibly, I guess. It's not that it would change how I would. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Wow, how's that for an answer? I'm all over the map now.
No, yes.
Yeah, no, maybe, for sure, but possibly not. I have yes. Well, no. If anything, I think it's neat to kind of look at. There's room to kind of like play with this universe. And so it means we could easily go back to a more traditional style with a game if we wanted to, or we could kind of keep pushing forward with a new exploration of it. But it's none of it would necessarily, I think, alter the character, because you have to in all of these instances stay true to the character. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think it wouldn't. We don't run the risk of people going, "What? That's not Sonic." I mean, you know Sonic, just like Batman, whether or not it's Kevin Conroy or Roger Craig Smith or whoever it might be, Christian Bale or Ben Affleck. you know the character of Batman, and the people that are involved in these things, they're never going to push those characters so far beyond an element to where they're recognizable as that character. So, I think it'd be fun to kind of explore a little bit more with Sonic as a result going forward. But no, I don't think there's going to be any sort of major change to this. And if anything, I think it'd be exciting to kind of keep sort of tweaking and working with Sonic in different arenas, but still staying true to who that character is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the history of the character. He's only been voiced for about maybe 15 years. So, and the voice has kind of been all over the place. I don't know how much research you did into past voice actors. I know the anime.
Jaleel Orion and yes, no, it's believe me, even if I didn't do the research, the fans were going to let me know where the research has been done.
Did you when you started as Sonic, did you have this voice in mind from past actors, or just by looking at him did you have this voice that you do in mind?
No, I think for the audition process they were playing some of the stuff that had been done in the past and saying like this is in the vein of the character, but bring to it what you think you would want to do with it. And so that was the approach, and that's usually the approach of most of these gigs, unless you're doing just a straight voice match. For maybe maybe there's an on-camera actor who did the voice in a film, but they don't want to do it for the video game, so you do impersonate that. I did that for Chicken Little, Ace in Action, the video game. I voice matched Steve Zahn as Runt the pig. And it's like that's that type of a situation. But for Sonic, they were saying, look, here's the equivalent to that would be like, here's Runt, the pig in Chicken Little. We want to kind of keep in that sort of energy and that sort of tonality, but bring to it what you think you would bring to it. So that was kind of the approach. And again, that's also kind of staying true to the character. If all of a sudden Sonic walked around and sounded like Chris Redfield, you'd be like, what? This doesn't match. I mean, he should be kind of snarky and funny and kind of in a little bit of a higher register and a little edge to him kind of thing, because that's how the character is written. That's his to me that's his character.
And you've had a history with Sega. George had a question pertaining to that.
You worked on Valkyrie Chronicles and Mad World. Did that contribute to landing your role as Sonic?
You know what? You never know. I mean, I don't think so, but I mean, good Lord. I mean, when you think about how vastly different Mad World is to Sonic, I would have no idea. Because sometimes there's decisions that are made that I'm never privy to. It's always funny when fans are asking me to tell Sega what they need to do. And I'm thinking, I rarely see people from Sega. It's not all that, and I'm certainly not calling them to bend their ear to say, like, what I think we should do here. I am just a voice actor. So no, I don't think any of that stuff would necessarily have an influence on it, unless you've got people who are in a decision-making, capacity at Sega who go, oh yeah, I remember working with him on that game. So it doesn't really necessarily to tie into that.
I have a question of Valkyrie Chronicles. You played a character named Vice, who happens to be from another Sega game called Skies of Arcadia, which was on the Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah, holy cow.
How did you get into? Did you actually play the game, or see the voice that they used in the previous game?
Were you aware of the connection at all?
I was not, and so that's now I'm kind of going, oh, I wonder how are they vastly different?
No, the thing was, Vice wasn't really voiced that much in the original game, but he was in All Stars Racing Transformed, which is why I thought it was kind of funny that you had actually voiced the character in the past as a cameo, and now you're playing Sonic in a racing game where the character is cameoing again. But
oh, how funny! I didn't even know that. No, that's interesting. It's really weird. It just depends on, like, typically it's almost up to the director as to whether or not they know what type of a game they're gonna try to create here, and they know what they're gonna try to sort of kind of have be the finished version of things. So with voiceover, they'll come in and they'll say, hey, if they've got a file that they want to play you of a previous version of a character, and maybe that actor's not around, or maybe that actor wasn't available, and they'll say, hey, we want you to do this as best you can, or as close to this original version as you can. they'll sometimes do that, or it's just like, hey, he's 24, he's out to avenge his father's death, and he's from Italy, and go. And then you start throwing those things against the wall, and then they say, no, try it like this, try them deeper, try them higher, try them younger, try them older, try them all these different things, and you start kind of messing around with to come up with a voice. So, and it's sad. I mean, that was such a long time ago for me that it's like I'm trying to remember what we might have done for that particular franchise, but I don't recall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was listening to the clips, and you were actually pretty close to the original. It was, it's like a young, gruff, adventurous boy, so it's like, yeah, all right, that kind of
How
thing.
funny. Yeah, I wonder, they might have played us something from the original game, and asked us to try to emulate that, but I don't recall. I don't remember.
All right, my last question is, what advice would you give to aspiring voice actors?
You know what? That's such a oh man, that is such a tricky question, and I always feel so pretentious in even trying to answer that to some degree, because the reality is, like, most of the actors that I've ever worked with in voiceover, everybody has a completely different story about how they got started, or how they got their start, or how they got their breakthrough, or whatever it might be. Honestly, I think obviously taking some classes is a great way to start, and a lot of people think that it's like that voice acting is completely different from regular acting, as they love to say. Have you ever thought about doing any real acting? But I mean, acting's acting, whether you're doing it in front of a camera on a stage or in front of a microphone. It's all acting. So we always say, like, take a class in acting and make that your start. If you're not an actor, but people tell you you have a great voice, go take a class in acting so you can understand that even when you're doing a retail spot, and you're talking about some new sandwich at a fast food place that you're really excited about. Obviously, as a human being, you're probably not that excited about that sandwich, so you're going to act like you're really excited about that sandwich so you can help them sell those sandwiches, and therefore you're acting, even when it's just a straight voiceover gig like that. So take classes in acting, and then the next is take a class in voice acting. If you can find one online, they offer them. And in your local area, sometimes there are classes that are taught in voice acting. And then perseverance. I guess rejection is an absolute massive part of this job, and get accustomed to and get really good at being rejected, because it is going to happen day in and day out. Every time you flip on the TV or watch, play a video game or listen to the radio, you're going to hear the jobs that you didn't book. And understand that it has no reflection on you as a person or you as a voice actor. It might just be there's a right and a wrong voice for every role and for every project, and that's just kind of how it goes. But I mean, I would just say, like, stick-to-itiveness and that perseverance, is something to hone for sure, because there's so much of it that is so important in what we do. Because if my job was to book work, I'd be really terrible at my job. For as many auditions as you put out there, I think the booking rate is sometimes they give percentages, but it's like 2% of everything you audition for you might book, and it's you might do 100 auditions to book 2 or 3 gigs, and it's that seems kind of daunting, but it's just that's how it goes. So it's if you're truly passionate about it and passionate about anything, then perseverance is going to come very easy, because you want to do it. But also with that, everything I've said, take it with a grain of salt, because for all I know, you have some rich uncle who can pave the way for you and buy your way into some film. Who knows? Sometimes people are just exceptionally good at this with no training, and they just go in and they just crank it out because they're not busy thinking about training. They're just kind of going in and performing. And there's so many ways to go about doing it, but it's very entrepreneurial to begin with, for sure. You have to go kind of pound your way around and kind of feel. No one's going to hold the door open for you, because we're all hoping that someone's going to, realize that the door was left ajar anyway, and we'll sneak our way in. So we're certainly not going to turn around and hold the door open for you.
Yeah.
But it's a fun family, but it's still competitive, like any industry.
Well, thanks for that advice. I'm hoping some aspiring voice actors listen, because that's great. I did want to know what your thought was on the recently announced Sonic movie, Seeing as how you voiced the character already in Wreck-It Ralph, do you think we can expect you to play Sonic again on the big screen?
I would, you know what I mean. I think it's awesome that the character is being given new life. Obviously, this is like a really exciting time for this, and it's interesting to keep thinking about how old this character is and how long it's been around, and the significance of this character in society in general. I mean, it's he's up there with the Mario Brothers. It's or Batman or that kind of thing. Everybody knows who Sonic the Hedgehog is. It's a household name worldwide. And so for it to get taken to whatever Sony is intending on doing is awesome for the character, awesome for the franchise, awesome for the visibility of the character, and whether or not I have any shot at being involved in that film is so far beyond me that I would be honored to even have a chance at reading for it. But I think like a lot of things, they sometimes will take these characters and they'll have a celebrity name attached to it so that they can get more interest drummed up for the film. And that's always a good possibility, but who knows? I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, it might be like the Muppets, where they're going to have the voices and of the actual puppeteers that are doing the characters that aren't household names, but they will fill it full of celebrities to get people to get the butts in the seats, as they say. But either way, I mean, if I'm still lucky enough to be portraying Sonic at that time, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's just we're introducing Sonic to a whole new audience, which is kind of what we're hoping to kind of keep achieving with the games and the TV series. We love this character. We think he's awesome. We want everyone out there to understand this world and these characters and enjoy it. So I think it's a really great thing for the franchise and for the character. I hope they do a phenomenal job with it, and whether or not I get a chance to be a part of it is, to me, just feels like it's such a far-fetched dream, that it's you don't even want to think about it.
Well, I have to say, like, on behalf of myself and all the SEGAbits writers, you've been doing a fantastic job ever since you started with Sonic Colors and Sonic Freeriders. It's just been
thank you.
I think it's been a breath of fresh air to have a Sonic that really comes alive in the game and doesn't. I mean, not to knock the other voice actors, I just think it kind of came at a different time in the industry, because now it seems like they really want to bring the character out and make him his own in the especially in the cutscenes and with the upcoming TV show. So you've been doing a fantastic job, and I mean, you've definitely just been getting better and better.
Very thanks, man. I really do appreciate the compliment. I know that it's like, because it's always funny to see some of the negativity that's out there with any project that you're involved in, and I always laugh just thinking, what do people think that we want to destroy these characters, or that we don't want to do the best that we can do? And so I love hearing any sort of fans that are enjoying what we're doing, because that's what we want to do. We want to do something that we get a kick out of, and that the fans will get a kick out of. So I'm glad it's being well received. At least by some folks.
Oh, definitely. And we're looking to do like maybe some Sonic Boom themed podcasts in the future. So if you ever want to come on for a future show, we'd love to have you to talk.
That'd be great. Be honored to.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great. I'd be honored to, for sure.
Just out of respect for your time, I know you have to probably get going soon. I
was also 10 minutes late, so if you want to push it another 10 minutes, we'll be fine.
Ooh, bonus time.
Bonus time.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so happy right now. George, do you have any other questions?
I don't think I have any written down. I think I already finished all my questions. You want to talk? You want to ask the Sonic Colors Sonic question?
Yeah, actually, I was wondering. In Sonic Generations, there was you played modern Sonic. There was classic Sonic. Was there ever talk of you voicing classic Sonic, or was that decision to render him mute made by the time the recording started?
I honestly don't think I wasn't necessarily privy to any sort of discussion about whether or not they were going to voice classic Sonic. And if I was, I think it was like, no, we're not going to do that. So I think that was I think that the decision to have him sort of rendered, speechless was done long before I had started even recording. I think they almost did that just to kind of actually add to the more of the comedic element. You can have a little bit more fun with it if he's not talking, and trying to figure those things out, because that would be the most classic version of Sonic, would be to have him not actually saying anything. So I think that was what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I do know that Aaron Weber, who recently departed Sega. I don't know if you've ever dealt with him, but he was the brand manager for Sonic.
No, but I think I saw on your website the farewell
Yeah,
to
sad to
his,
see him go. He was definitely one of our big ins to Sega. He just was so open with great information. He told us, and I don't know if he was kidding or not, that they actually briefly considered bringing Jaleel White on to.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it's you know, sometimes these things. I mean, it's a very interesting industry in that way that you think. What would they be getting Jaleel to do now? You know, who knows if they didn't want to spend the money, or if they didn't have the money for it, or if, you know, you never know. Or I'm sure like he probably wouldn't mind going back and revisiting that character. It's you know, who knows. Like I say, like as a voice actor, I'm usually the last to find out anything, and so sometimes people think that I've got like the inside edge on something, you know, going on at Sega, and I assure you, I do not. I work with my agency. My agency calls me to tell me where they want me to go, what I'm booked for, and where, you know, what job I might have just landed, and then it's like you show up and go, and you know, you meet people sometimes very briefly, and then you're out the door. So it's you know, it's a shame that I don't get to be more involved. But I also think it keeps it safer. It keeps it to where, look, I don't need to know all the inside workings of a company. I just need to go into the booth, and if that director who's been hired by that company is doing a great job of directing me, then we are all going to collectively and collaboratively create this wonderful product, and you know, we're gonna have a good time doing it, and the fans will really enjoy it, and hopefully that's what we push out. Yeah, so who knows? I mean, like you said, that very likely could have been a possibility.
We also mentioned colors and freeriders, but I think one of the earliest instances of your voice getting out there, because people were freaking out, you know, they were like, well, we want to hear him do the voice, was actually Alton Towers. Do you remember doing that recording session?
Oh, do I remember Alton Towers? Because wasn't there the check out the console.
Yep, that's what I was going to mention.
Yeah. That
Stay clear of Dr. Eggman.
Stay clear of Dr. Eggman. And it was, we had a ton of fun doing that, but that was also a different, I think, because it was a theme park and all that, they had a different crew of people that were involved in those sessions, and I loved the controversy over that kind of stuff, because I think what was happening too is that there was maybe a conversion rate. I think, wasn't that what caused the deep sounding Sonic?
Yep.
That it was like PAL versus NTSC kind of thing,
Yeah.
And so it was creating issues with the playback of the files and that kind of thing, and that happens. I've had people call me in for an audition that I booked, and I get in there and they say, okay, here we're going to play back a reference of what you did, and all of a sudden they play it, and it's like Roger Craig Smith, heaven is heaven, and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, you think you, I'm like, I can try that, but that's chipmunked out, and it was because of like the parameters of it, like an MP3 file, that kind of thing. But yeah, I remember doing so it was for Sonic Spinball, right?
Yep.
Spinball Madness or something like that, I think was the actual title of the ride or whatnot. I still have yet to, I would kill to get out to Alton Towers and actually ride the ride and actually hear all those voices and try to stay in the Sonic suite. I think that would be kind of dope.
You could walk in and you could introduce yourself and then just go into loop.
Exactly.
Welcome to Alton Towers. Oh, thank you, Sonic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or go like, man, that's not how Sonic sounds.
Oh, welcome. Yeah. There was actually
welcome to Alton Towers.
People were speculating that was your true voice and they were going to pitch it up for the games, which they wouldn't do any pitching on you, I'd imagine. You're doing the voice. You already said Burnbot pretty loudly, so.
There you go. Yeah. No, I don't think they pitched me. No, I mean, I would hope I would also be able to tell if they did, but no. Sonic's pretty. He's easy to do in there. He's kind of in there at all times, ready to go.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. Do you improvise any lines in the game, and like they say, oh yeah, let's keep this one, or is it strictly by the script?
You know what? I think we were playing around with some of the lines and having fun with some of the stuff when it came to like the Wii U version of the game. I don't know though. I mean, sometimes we're always ad-libbing and having fun just to try to keep the session fresh and not getting boring for everybody involved. Because it can become kind of tedious. You go through 500 lines in a day kind of thing. And And so, it just depends on the situation, whether or not they'd like to have some ad-libbing. Sometimes you can't ad-lib because the script is so attached to a department that's handling the subtitles, that if you come up with an ad-lib, the subtitle department might not be ready for it and have no clue what to do with it. So, but I think obviously with the TV series, we've played around with lines and had a lot of fun there because it's a little more free-flowing.
Are there any Sonic characters that you'd want to voice outside of Sonic? Do you think you'd be able to pull them off?
I don't think so.
No.
I know that, like, with Travis delivering like a spot-on Knuckles, and I mean, nobody can touch Mike Pollock when it comes to Eggman. So it's kind of no. That's why I can't believe I got lucky enough to do this guy. We have some fun with some other characters in the TV series that I've had a lot of fun playing. But they're not characters that we necessarily would say are familiar to the fan base.
Mm-hmm. Are you at all aware of the Japanese voice actor? He's actually been doing it since 1998.
Which is unreal, right? I mean, there's a lineage that you can't compete with. No, I mean, I'm obviously aware of the fact that he's been out there and he's been doing it since, for that long. But no, I'm not. I haven't met him, I should say.
Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome if Sonic Generations 2 was the Japanese and the American voice actors meeting.
That would be very cool. That would be hilarious. It would just be a lot of me going, what? I don't really follow.
Yeah. I understood Tails. I think I heard Eggman. That's about it.
Exactly. It's like, sorry. I mean, sayonara, maybe.
Yeah.
Were you a big fan of the Sonic franchise before you got the voice job?
For sure. I mean, I always think back to the Sega Genesis being, oh my gosh, 16 bits. That was high school for me. And Sonic the Hedgehog was one of the first games that I remember playing thinking, my gosh, look how fast this game processes and moves. It's like you've never seen a game move that quick before. And I just remember thinking, like, this is, it's great that they're finally doing this with games. And it was so hard to play for me. I found it to be a very difficult game. Because you end up losing all your rings after you just fall off some cliff that there's no way you would have ever been able to react to that in time, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it was like, and ever since then I've played a ton of the Sonic games that were coming out on Xbox and Nintendo thereafter. So I shouldn't say on Nintendo because that's been relatively recent. But for sure on the old Xbox platform, there were a couple of different 3D games that I played and that kind of thing that I enjoyed. But and I was aware of the animated series as well, because all that stuff was kind of happening around that time.
Right. What did you think of the voice acting? I mean, the early Sonic voice acting. What was your opinion on it?
You know what's funny? I mean, like I don't have any opinion because I react to. I go, okay, that's the character. That's what we're doing. I mean, I think inherently you want to not necessarily be reacting to it. You don't want it to be like, if you are, then maybe it's one of these things where like, oh, good God, you're rolling your eyes all the time or that kind of thing. So I don't think it stuck out to me, but I also think voice acting wasn't necessarily on my radar as far as things to be aware of back in the day. It was, it kind of came about as something to be aware of when I started doing stand-up comedy, and by then I wasn't necessarily, I was a little bit older, so it was, by then I wasn't necessarily, I don't think, too active in playing like a lot of Sonic games or that kind of thing, or seeking out the stuff at that time. I think it would be just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to play a Sonic game, like that type of thing. And even then you're sitting there going like, yeah, all right, I'm just, those voices. You don't think much of it.
Yeah.
Something that you notice after a while is that video game players are very critical on everything. Which would you think you got more criticized for? Like, you played Chris Redfield, Captain America, Batman. Which one have you gotten the most criticism for?
All of them. I mean, it just doesn't matter. You're gonna find, you could go out and do any one type of a character, and as soon as you stick your neck out on the internet, you're gonna have some people who say like, hey, I love this. This was fun. I get what everybody was doing. And then you're just gonna find some people who I don't know why, if it's just for the sake of trying to make a name for themselves, or to be like, look how independent I am. I hate what everybody else likes, or whatever the situation might be. You're just gonna get criticism all the time, and if you seek it, you'll find it. But yeah, I mean, there are people. There was a guy that was like bashing on Ezio's birthday You know, like the Assassin's Creed fan base was saying, "Oh, happy birthday to Ezio. He'd be 555 years old today." And it was like, all right, so I'm retweeting and doing all that kind of stuff. And then some guy gets on there and he's like, why does Ezio stink so much? I'm so glad this guy came along to save the franchise. And you're like, why do that? It's a fictitious character. His birthday's not real, and the fans are enjoying their day. And then you come on to be the guy who, like, smashes the birthday cake? Like, what is your problem? So, you know, that stuff's out there. And it doesn't matter what character I've done or what job I've been a part of, you're going to find people who are like, well, I found this to be unlikable, so therefore I've let everyone know my opinion. And
Yes.
isn't that adorable and important?
Yes.
So all of them. You know, and anytime you step into a character that's already been established by previous actors, you just know that it's going to come with the territory. So with Sonic, with Captain America, with Batman, you know, you're going to get that hate. It's just nothing.
Yeah, to be in Ben Affleck's shoes right now, I'm sure he's...
Yeah, which is so ridiculous. I mean, like, they were doing the same thing with Heath Ledger, and yet he turned out one of the most incredible performances of the Joker that we've ever seen. So it's like, you know, let it happen. Nobody involved in these franchises is out there to try to destroy it. They want to do the best that they can. You know, it's like it's a shame when people just, before even something's hit the airwaves or hit the store shelves, they're already hating on it. It's like, well, you know, you can wind up being one of those people who eat the little humble pie after that if you're so passionate about hating something that you haven't experienced yet. I don't get that. I don't get why we're so cynical. We're so quick to just, you know, oh, well, that's, yeah, whatever. What are they thinking? This is going to be terrible. They're going to ruin everything. You know? I understand that, you know, we're passionate about these things that we like, but at some point you got to just kind of go, all right, let's see what it is.
Yeah, know? Take a walk. That's what I always say. If you start getting worked up over things like video games or a TV show, just go for a walk.
Exactly. There's far bigger fish to fry in life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, Jaleel White even wasn't, I'm sure people were going, Urkel's voicing Sonic, and, you know, he turned around and became the quintessential Sonic of the 90s, and I definitely think you've come around to become the quintessential modern Sonic.
Holy cow. Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
So again, I want to thank you so much for talking with us and for sharing all these awesome stories and memories. And Batman Arkham Origins is out now, the DLC is out now, and Sonic Boom is coming out soon. So more Roger on your way.
Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing, we'll find out.
Yes. Well, from myself and George, thank you so much for joining us, Roger.
Barry, George, thanks very much, guys. Thank you for having me on.
All right,
no problem.
Take care.
Take care, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That went well.
You think so?
Yeah.
Sound tired?
No, you sounded good.
Okay, I was on my game.
Yeah, and I'm glad he gave